Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the Report Desk Africa. If you missed the first half of the show, well, you've not missed so much. We talked about the Sierra Leonean presidential 2023 presidential election, where Julius Maada Bio was re-elected, has been re-elected, and even sworn in as the president of Sierra Leone. And this time around, we are going to the second segment, which in a way will signify the second half of the year, because this will be the last episode for the first half of the year. So let's move into the second half together. We move to Nigeria, as electricity distribution companies in Nigeria, DISCOs as they would call them, have said the planned hike in electricity tariff will not take effect from July 1, 2023. Now, the DISCOs say the proposed hike is yet to get the approval of the electricity regulatory body, which is fondly called NERC here. The uncertainty surrounding the proposal and the effect of the electricity tariff hike has generated mixed reactions among consumers and even vendors and key institutions in the industry, because the planned 40% increase, which is going to be doubled, as at before the increase it was around 40%, 44%, and now with this 40% increase it will go to around 88 per kilowatt, 88 kilowatts per. Okay, I'm mixing it up. Let's just leave it at 88. And expert projections are saying that this may lead to higher cost of Nigerians due to the floating of the naira and increased inflation. Is this the right time, with the removal of the subsidy, the fuel hike, the economic downturn Nigeria is actually facing? We'll quickly take a look at this report. When we come back, we'll be able to talk more on this subject.
A few weeks after the removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which had many Nigerians overwhelmed with the over 200% increase in petrol prices nationwide, news making the rounds suggests that a 40% electricity tariff is being proposed, and this has drawn strong reactions from consumers as well as various stakeholders, including the Nigerian Labour Congress and other key institutions across the country.
If they are being sincere or be transparent, there may not be need to increase tariff. Because the number of houses in Nigeria, if they are well metered, they can get their money, not even need to increase the tariff as well due. So if you look at the problem of Nigeria is not even by increase, it's the meter. The meter system is the problem. If they charge everybody according to what you use, the tariff it will go lower than what we have today.
And whatever they think they have in mind that they want to cook up and say, okay, they want to take it out, they want to add. Who is asking them to add? They are adding. Are we even having the lights? So what's the point of you adding when we're not even having the lights? We're giving Ghana lights, for crying out loud. And they have lights 24/7. We don't even have lights. We don't. Now, coupled with the fact that the whole fuel, whatever, is expensive, no lights, the country is tight. So what are you adding up?
Fuel has gone up, and you know the ripple effect that has caused in terms of transportation, in terms of the domestic things. Everything has gone, and now the electricity board is coming out with this interviews. It doesn't make any sense.
The current average tariff is 64 naira per kilowatt due to the floating of the naira and increase in inflation, among other factors. The proposed increase in electricity tariff is expected to take effect from July 1, 2023. If this goes through, many Nigerians will now have to pay 88 naira per unit of electricity. This undoubtedly will cause a further increase in the high cost of living, as there has been no announcement of measures to mitigate its effects before implementation.
The government should have probably done or should do now is to now go, into to effectively start deploying the palliatives, which, one of them includes the metering that we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, that's one good palliative that we can come in. Tariff review will go on, but we should put in mitigating factors. What it means is that, you see, if I have the option of paying for light or buying gari that my family will eat, trust me, my brother, I'm going to go with gari first. When my family is alive, then we can now start fighting with the discos.
While News Central made several unsuccessful efforts to reach the DISCOs, the Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, and the regulatory body, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, to speak officially on the matter proved abortive. Fresh reports emanating from the power distribution companies have debunked the news that the hike will take effect from July 1st. According to them, the National Electricity Regulatory Commission is yet to approve the planned increase. As things stand, Nigerians will have to wait with bated breath to see how things play out with this policy, which may end up further eroding their purchasing power. Omolola Ololade reported for News Central.
Well, that was the reports put together by our correspondent, Omolola Ololade. Now, Nigerians saw the price hike in products and certain sectors coming because, of course, of the, reduction or removal of subsidy. But was electricity tariff part of it? Definitely not. So joining us to discuss this is News Central's Adesewa Odusoga. Thank you, Shewa, for joining us.
Hi, Blessings. Thank you for having me.
First things first, Niyi said to ask you,
You just have
that
to
since
ask
you
me.
live in Nigeria, do you have light?
Well, to be honest with you, I think since this new administration came into power, I don't know whether they are trying to bribe Nigerians. The power has actually improved from what it used to be. It has actually improved.
Are you speaking for your area or Nigeria generally?
Okay, so I would not be
have a
speaking for Nigeria.
contrasting
Nigeria has about
blessings?
35 inclusive of the FCT, 36 states. I mean 36 states inclusive of the FCT. So I can't speak for the entire Nigeria. But I live in Lagos, Nigeria, and I know that for the most part of Lagos, Nigeria, a lot of people have also said that the electricity actually have improved since the new administration. And you can see the jokes on social media saying that, are you trying to bribe us into loving the new administration already, because we do not understand this constant, supply of electricity. So yes, I can say that it has improved from what it used to be.
Right. So I will need to be careful when I say this. Nigerians will now have to pay 88 naira per unit. I don't want to be like someone. 88 naira per unit. And this is quite ridiculous to a lot of Nigerians because they didn't see the need to increase it, just like you saw in that report. A lot of people are saying that. We are even giving Ghana light, and we don't have the light. Now, by don't have light, it doesn't mean that there's no light at all. But I mean, you and I know this is Nigeria. It's not as steady as it should have been. So was there a need to have increased, the tariff? Or is this just a decoy because the price of every other thing is going up?
All right, so like I've seen in so many articles, they say that Nigeria is trying to go through the trajectory of really good times. And they say for this to happen, it should only get worse before it gets better. But however, I think that's quite an insensitive statement to make at this time, because Nigeria, let's go back from December, Nigeria have had to, survive, so to speak, and deal with first the cash crunch. There was a scarcity of fuel at some point, then that came back to normal. Then they had to sell fuel at 185, and then now we're buying at almost 500. So we had to deal with scarcity of cash, scarcity of fuel. Then going back to the cash coming back to the market, now the fuel is going at almost 200% increase, not even I think about 300% increment in the price of fuel. And then now we also have inflation at almost 22%. Not to also forget that Nigerians' educational sector is also bracing for times where subsidy may have to be removed because of the introduction of the student loan. And now you think this is the best time to also introduce an increment in the tariff for electricity. What you're trying to do to Nigerians is that you're going to also definitely reduce the purchasing power of many Nigerians. Because like the person in the report said, that Nigerians will have to think about how to feed now. Because, they may have to, do away with so many, anything that has to do with social amenities. Because the question now is that what exactly is Nigerian government providing for its citizens if you have to remove subsidy on every other things that you're expected to provide for them? Subsidy is being removed on fuel, it's being removed on education, now on electricity. So what exactly are Nigerians benefiting from its government? Because, you owe them that for them to have even voted you in power. There are so many talks, so many, jargons about, okay, this is why we are doing this because of, policy reforms and all that. So it has to be like this before it gets better. But would you tell that to somebody who is hardly, making ends meet, or somebody who is hardly even feeding 3 times a day? I mean, Nigerians have even forgotten how to feed 3 times a day. We have, we have this popular song of 101. I think people have to do 100 now because they have to, a lot of their money have to go into electricity, the inflation on so many food prices because of obviously the transportation that has gone high, that is even affecting the cost of, transporting goods and even services. So now they have to also deal with electricity tariff going by 40%. It's quite ridiculous. And then if you are trying to hamper on people's purchasing power, you're actually sending signals to poverty. So whether or not the policy is good, then this is the wrong timing, because it will be very insensitive to actually introduce an increment in any other thing. Nigerians are about to, endured enough. And then I think it's worrisome because we are also sending signals to insecurity. Because if a lot of people will not be able to afford to light up their homes, they cannot afford to buy fuel to use the generator set as an alternative. So how do you want them to survive? And we know how much so many businesses in Nigeria, both foreign investment and even indigenous investments, have had to pack up because of the issue with electricity. You are improving tariff on something that you're not even providing an efficient service for. I mean, for the longest time since I've been in Nigeria, and I've never had, maybe until recently, like I mentioned earlier, I've never had to enjoy like 24-hour supply of electricity in Nigeria. So even the services that you are even preferring is not even 100%, but every time you are increasing the tariff. We can recall that there was an increment in 2020. There was another 50% increment in 2021. Now we are introducing another 40% increment in just under 2 years. I mean, this is too early. I don't know the justification that this administration wants to give Nigerians, but you have barely spent, I think today makes it 30 days since the president assumed office, and we've had to deal with too many things. I see how the supporters of this present administration have had to, console themselves with, okay, I think he's trying to drive at something. But while you may be trying to drive at something, you should also consider the realities on ground. How many people have to die? How many people have to go hungry because you are trying to achieve something with policy reforms? So we need some level of, probably the government needs to, intervene this time. We need a level of palliative to actually douse the tension. It's getting too much.
Just as you said, this might be a signal to poverty, and not only poverty, maybe insecurity. And thank God there's no subsidy. There's no subsidy on the air Nigerians breathe. Maybe by now they might be considering trying to remove it. But let's take it this way. Currently, we know it's obvious that Nigeria, the government cannot actually supply electricity to the all 200 million Nigerians, and what it's actually getting now, what it's generating, is not enough for distribution. But there's the aspect of the the Dangote refinery, which of course in times to come is expected to generate some sort of electricity. If the government, maybe the government might be looking to partner with them to generate electricity in one way or the other. And yes, I admit that there has been hikes in previous administration, but some will argue that the hikes right now is necessary. And assessing this government so far, they can say that all the steps they've taken has been to achieve a particular result. And giving them the benefit of a doubt, now they will achieve a good result, and electricity will actually be better and be at the best of standard since the fuel subsidy has been removed. What do you think about that?
All right, so judging by the Electricity Act that was just signed by the president, I see that it's aimed at providing, legal, rights against, because they know that we are beginning to introduce privatization to the electricity sector. But against all odds, while this, like I said earlier, there are too many explanations, policy reforms and all those things, then the Electricity Act is also trying to say something about a possible, increment. So they are leaving the tariff they're leaving it to be market driven, just like the naira, and then also the oil sector. So they want the market to determine the price. But we need to be realistic. Nigeria is largely an informal sector. The informal sector dominates the number of, the sectors in Nigeria. So we are talking to people, millions, like hundreds of millions of Nigerians who would have to, bear the crunch of most of this particular thing that we're talking about. So what is the government doing in place, to douse the tension, like I said earlier? We understand that a lot of things have gone bad, and then before you try to, assemble things to come back to normalcy, some things have to go worse before we go back to the normal way. But we know how many times we've had to do a report on how electricity is affecting the prosperity of businesses in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Now, that's even because it is not constant. The argument then wasn't the cost. It was because it wasn't constant, and people have to, spend so many on even fuel that was even way cheaper then. So you want to imagine what the business climate in Nigeria would be in the next couple of months. What are you going to tell investors? Because every other country is looking for ways to attract investment into their country, but we are introducing policies to drive them away. Whether or not, how many businesses can wait for the next 6 months for things to get back to normal? So, I mean, we're talking about business that have to, bring in money day in, day out. Are you going to tell the consumers, are you going to tell the investors that, okay, just give us 6 months, the things will come back to normal? What if it doesn't? We have so many factors that can actually hinder this from coming to reality. We have corruption, we have sabotage, and all of those things. So they may say that, okay, this is what we are trying to achieve. That's just paperwork. What about the reality of, we're dealing with Nigerians, and we've seen what has happened in the past. There are humans who have their own ulterior motive, whether or not who the president may be. So let's talk about those that surrounded the cabinet and those that are involved in, the entire process of this policy. Are they actually, do they have the interest of Nigerians at heart when they're trying to, implement these policies, so to speak? So many things are affected. You cannot remove subsidy on everything at the same time. It's going to affect an average Nigerian. And you also want to tax these people. Don't forget that they're actually trying to impose a 7% value-added tax on virtually everything. This used to be 5%, and there was even an outcry when it was 5%. So we're not even seeing an 100% increment in things. We are seeing 40, 300, 200. It's going to get to a point where a number of students will sit at home and not going to school. Businesses will pack up. Employers will not be able to afford to pay their employees. And then what would that do to Nigeria's economy at large, where your education, the employment, everything is just going to go into doldrums? So Nigeria is not even ready for another recession to even start with. So we should also consider that there are still going to be some global element that can come in place. God forbid we have another COVID. Is Nigeria going to tell the global market that, hold on, I'm trying to, do some arrangements here. Don't increase the global oil market price yet. Don't let COVID start yet. I don't want another, pandemic yet. You can't even, there are some things that are actually beyond your control. So if you are saying, give me time, how much time do we have? And not that things were actually good when you came into power. Things were actually, going down. So you are trying to worsen the situation. Whether or not you have to give us the excuse of give me time, things will get back to normal. How long should be the question that we should be asking them?
I think my major concern is the fact that the government needs to sit up and realize that they need to stop consoling themselves with that pseudo-reality of it's going to get worse before it gets better. The truth is, and the major question to be asked is, how many people will survive this worst time? What is the alternative? I mean, everything is skyrocketing, right? And there's no conversation whatsoever about an alternative to improve the living condition of at least the average man. It just really is saddening to think. I think that every other country goes through reforms, but we don't exactly just look at the negativity. We also try to balance it up, right? Those countries try to balance it up. Okay, what can we do while this situation exists? What can we do to ease the stress on these people? What can we do to make living better for them? If we go like this, if we continue like this, a lot of people will not survive. And like you said, a lot of people will even do away with social amenities. Someone in that report says that if he had the chance to choose between Gary and, getting his meter and all of that, he will feed his family first. So it's like we're going back to a primitive society in 2023, and it's unheard of.
And what is more heart-wrenching is the fact that even the alternative form of getting energy is not even affordable. So let's say, for example, now the subsidy is off fuel, so you can't get fuel, and there's no steady power supply. Now they're about to even increase the rate. You can't afford to go for solar panels, which are extremely expensive. And if you want to start thinking about buying an inverter now, the people who are installing it, recharging the battery, changing the battery, it's a whole new ball game. And to think that in the electricity bill, these were key things.
There's still a lot of gas flaring. Nigeria has so many potentials to invest in its gas sector, but no, a lot of it goes to waste, and then we export a number of it. When we can actually, utilize that and turn that to, even giving Nigeria bridging the gap between, the power in the power sector. But no, we are talking about policy reforms that the average market woman on the road does not even understand, no matter how much you try to explain it to her. So we need to actually we just need to calm down. The president should not think of, reforming, building the new Nigeria under 1 year or 2 years. There is no pressure. Do it a step at a time. If you want to focus on the oil subsidy, just do that within the first and the second year before we start to talk about the electricity subsidy. You cannot afford to remove subsidy on
everything
sector of
at
the
the same
economy,
time.
and you expect Nigerians not to
Thank
react.
you so much, Shewa. In just one word, some people argue that adjusting the minimum wage or the salary or wages of people would actually make it better. Do you think that would make it better in one word?
It's not enough.
Thank you very much.
But at least it's something. That's if at all it to be considered.
Does it match the economic reality we have now? Oh, please. Thank you very much, Shewa, for joining us on this segment of the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll be looking at the forecast very shortly because of our time. I mean, this is a whole lot of discussions to have, and well, hopefully it gets better, but we'll see how it goes because we're hoping that it doesn't get worse than this. If it gets worse than this, then it is a cause for concern.
A very big cause for concern.
But anyways, we have Bettina Nweli on standby to give us the forecast for next week. So we'll take a look at forecast very shortly.